The winds of change are blowing across the Pacific. New alliances are being forged, old barriers are crumbling. And the Philippines now stands at the edge of a historic shift. For decades, Japan's military technology was locked behind walls of strict export laws and diplomacy. But today, those walls are breaking. And for the first time ever, the Philippine Armed Forces may gain access to some of Japan's most powerful warships, and even its advanced fighter jets. Imagine this. Japanese-built destroyer escorts patrolling the West Philippine Sea under the Philippine flag. Mitsubishi F-2 multi-role fighters screaming across the skies, carrying anti-ship missiles capable of striking any intruder. This is no longer a distant possibility, it is happening now. With the Philippines-Japan Reciprocal Access Agreement set to take effect in September 2025, doors are opening wider than ever for defense cooperation. The question is, will Manila seize this moment? Or will history repeat itself, with opportunity slipping away to others? Stay with us, as we break down the latest developments that could redefine the balance of power in the region, and the future of the armed forces of the Philippines. Let's begin with the Philippine Navy. In the coming months, the Navy is preparing to inspect Japan's Abukuma-class destroyer escorts. These ships were built in the late 1980s and 1990s for the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force. While they are not brand new, they remain highly capable platforms designed for one mission above all: versatility. At nearly 2,000 tons displacement, the Abukuma-class is classified as a destroyer escort, similar in size to a light frigate. They are equipped with advanced sonar systems for detecting submarines, surface-to-air missiles for defense, and torpedoes for anti-submarine warfare. These ships can perform escort missions, patrol operations, and act as guardians of sea lanes. For the Philippines, which currently struggles with limited hull numbers, the value of acquiring Abukuma-class ships cannot be overstated. The Philippine Navy today operates just a handful of major surface combatants: 2 Jose Rizal-class frigates, 3 aging Del Pilar-class offshore patrol vessels, a few World War II-era Malvar-class ships nearing retirement, and 2 Tarlac-class landing platform docks. That means, in a maritime theater as vast and contested as the West Philippine Sea, Manila is spread dangerously thin. By adding even a small number of Abukuma-class destroyers, the Philippine Navy could expand its presence, rotate patrols more effectively, and create a stronger deterrent posture. It would mean more ships to shadow foreign vessels, more assets to escort supply missions, and more credible defense in case of crisis. The upcoming joint inspection between Philippine and Japanese officers is crucial. This will determine the material condition of the ships, the lifespan of their engines, and whether their combat systems can still be integrated into Philippine doctrines. Older warships always come with challenges. Spare parts become harder to source. Maintenance costs can escalate. And sometimes, the cost of sustaining them outweighs the benefits of acquiring them. But here's the difference: if Japan offers these ships at highly favorable terms, possibly even as part of a transfer agreement, then the calculus changes. Instead of waiting years for new vessels to be built, the Philippines could immediately field proven surface combatants, with Japanese technical assistance for sustainment. For a navy in urgent need of expansion, this is not just a good deal, it is a potential lifeline. Yet, naval transfers are only half of the story. Because discussions are now expanding to include something far more ambitious: the potential transfer of Japanese fighter jets. Specifically, the Mitsubishi F-2. Developed jointly by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries and Lockheed Martin, the F-2 is often described as the Japanese cousin of the American F-16 Fighting Falcon. But make no mistake, it is no simple copy. The F-2 is larger, has a greater wingspan, carries more fuel, and can mount a heavier weapons load. Most importantly for the Philippines, it is optimized for maritime strike missions, with the ability to carry advanced anti-ship missiles. For an archipelagic nation like the Philippines, surrounded by contested seas, this is exactly the kind of fighter that could change the balance of power. Today, the Philippine Air Force operates a modest fleet of Fa-50PH Fighting Eagles, acquired from South Korea. These light fighters have already proven themselves in combat operations against insurgent groups and in maritime patrol roles. But the Fa-50 is fundamentally a light platform. It lacks the range, payload, and advanced radar systems of a true multi-role fighter. For years, the Air Force has sought to acquire a squadron of advanced jets under its multi-role fighter program. Candidates have included the American F-16 Viper and the Swedish JAS-39 Gripen. But negotiations have been slow, and funding constraints remain a challenge. This is where Japan's F-2 comes into play. If offered at affordable terms, or possibly through second-hand transfers, the F-2 could serve as a stopgap or even a permanent solution to the Air Force's capability gap. Just imagine the Philippine Air Force operating squadrons of F-2 fighters armed with long-range air-to-air missiles and sea-skimming anti-ship weapons. That would be a game-changer in defending Philippine skies and projecting power into the West Philippine Sea. Of course, the road is not simple. Operating high-performance jets like the F-2 requires far more than just buying the aircraft. The Philippines would need significant investments in infrastructure, including hardened hangars, new runways, advanced radar integration, and logistics pipelines. Pilots would require extensive retraining, since the F-2 has a far more sophisticated avionics suite than the Fa-50. Maintenance crews would need to be trained to Japanese standards. And long-term contracts for spare parts and upgrades would have to be secured. These are not small commitments. They require billions of pesos, and more importantly, political will to sustain the program for decades. But the potential payoff, air dominance and maritime strike capability, makes the challenge worth considering. Why is this discussion happening now? The answer lies in timing. Japan itself is modernizing at an accelerated pace. The Japan Air Self-Defense Force is gradually phasing out its older F-2s in preparation for the 6th-generation FX program. The Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force is also retiring older destroyers to make way for new, more advanced warships. This creates a rare window of opportunity. These assets, ships and fighters alike, are available now. But once Japan reallocates them or once other nations secure them, the opportunity will vanish. The Philippines must decide quickly. Delay could mean losing out entirely. Another factor shaping this moment is the Philippines-Japan Reciprocal Access Agreement, or RAA. This landmark pact, set to take effect in September 2025, is a game-changer. For the first time, it provides a legal framework for joint training, joint exercises, and crucially, for equipment transfers. In the past, even if Japan wanted to provide defense equipment, legal restrictions and diplomatic hurdles made the process extremely slow. Now, with the RAA in force, what was once difficult is becoming not only possible, but practical. This agreement symbolizes a new era, where the Philippines and Japan can work hand in hand, strengthening each other's defense postures, and ensuring greater stability in the region. What does this mean for the region? If the Philippines acquires Abukuma-class destroyers and Mitsubishi F-2 fighters, it would mark the first time that Japanese-built major combat platforms were integrated into another country's military in the modern era. It would significantly enhance interoperability, not only with Japan, but also with the United States, since both nations operate platforms designed in close cooperation with American defense firms. This would give the armed forces of the Philippines a credible deterrent posture. Warships to patrol contested waters. Fighters to secure the skies. And a framework of allied cooperation to back it all up. In short, it would push the Philippines closer to true self-reliance, while simultaneously tying its defense architecture more tightly to its allies. Of course, none of this will be easy. Budget constraints will remain the number one hurdle. Every peso spent on warships and jets is a peso not spent on infrastructure, education, or social programs. This means defense modernization must be justified not only in strategic terms, but also to the Filipino people. Logistical challenges also loom large. Ships and planes of Japanese origin would require specialized parts, and integration with existing systems could take years. The Philippines must ensure that accepting these transfers does not create dependencies that cannot be sustained. Finally, political leadership must remain consistent. Defense modernization cannot be allowed to stall every time a new administration comes into power. If Manila is to commit to these assets, it must do so with the long-term vision required to truly transform its armed forces. As the inspections move forward, the decisions made in the coming months will shape the future of the armed forces of the Philippines for decades to come. Will Manila secure Japanese-made